You're welcome to today's webinar. My name is Abraham. I'm part of the Moorepay training team. I'll be taking you through the masterclass for hierarchy today. I believe I can still see the numbers still dropping in. We still have some attendees still trying to get in. Whilst we are waiting for the numbers to stabilize, you will note that your mics have been muted. This is due to the number of attendees we are having for today's masterclass. At the very end, you have an opportunity to raise questions. So as we go along, if you do have any questions, you could put them in the chat and I will spend some time going through your questions at the very end for the Q&A. If you have to drop off, we understand there would always be business needs. There may be an emergency that you may have to attend to. You should not really worry too much because you will get a recording of this session. So if so happens that you need to drop off for whatever reason, you will get a copy of this recording. I think the numbers have stabilized a bit. Yeah, some few are still trying to join in, but we will still have to get this session started. So today we are covering the hierarchy of the NextGen platform. So the first thing we need to put out there is who is this session for? This is designed for admin of the system. So these are administrators of the NextGen platform, and it's targeting anyone who is using our systems for any workflow activity. For example, you may have holiday, or you may have timesheets that is coming from employees through managers, or expenses coming from employees to managers, any workflow activity like that. This is very important for that because this works behind the scenes. We shall look into details on this. This is not a session for our all-in-one customers. We do have a package we call all-in-one. This is not for our customers who are on that platform. This is for our next-gen customers who are using the next-gen platform for things like holiday, expenses, and timesheet. So if you are solely using our system for payroll, just payroll, and you don't use it for any other thing, then this session may also not be for you. But if you are looking to get into that side of things, you may you may find this quite useful, even though you may not be using that now. So what are we going to be covering today? So the agenda for today is we want to look at what is hierarchy. What do we do with this? How does this affect you? And then most importantly, the building process. Now we go through the building process because we want to be able to show you from start to finish how the whole system is designed. And by doing this, you'll be able to have enough information on how to be able to correct things, which is the next thing, which is troubleshooting, and how to be able to fix anything that you may find on there. And of course, at the very end, we'll have some Q&A depending on the questions that you put across here. So what is the hierarchy? This is needed in the Moorepay system, mainly for reporting or for security purposes. Now, it is mainly designed for security. It is designed so that we can have something in place to be able to control who get to see what and how much they get to see on the system. That is the main use of the hierarchy. However, as a sort of like a byproduct, it also serves as a way of putting that workflow in place. And so it's primarily there for security, but you would find that we also use this to be able to make workflow on the system happen, basically. And this is where we have most of our customers being interested in this part of the system. And so that is what we'll be focusing on today in terms of the troubleshooting aspect of the system. Now, it is very possible for the system to be designed to suit your business needs. And because of the various options available when it comes to bespoke setup, I will not be covering all the possibilities, but I will make sure we have something which cut across all of them so that at the very, very minimum, you understand how the system works. And then based on that, you could then apply that knowledge to whatever you may be having. I'm taking into account the various systems that our customers have. And of course, some of them are on this section. And so we do not want to be diverting too much into some complex things, which may not necessarily be what somebody else wants, but we would definitely cover everything basic about the system in terms of how to use it, in terms of how to build it, and how to identify issues if there are any on the system. So without wasting any more time, we want to jump straight into it. We'll be spending majority of our time on the admin organization and structure screen here. And so this doesn't matter where you log in from. And so if you log in via the payroll screens, admin will remain the same. If you go through the HR screens, admin will remain the same. So again, this screen doesn't look different depending on who you are and you have logged in. So long as you're an admin, you get to see the screen. We will spend majority of our time on this particular section of the menu. Now, I have a sort of like a guide which I'll be using to help me through today's session, just to make it very, very relatable so that you can see where we have got to and how much we need to cover. So today we'll be going through, when it comes to the building aspect of the system, what we call the 7-step process. These are strong bits of the system that you definitely need to understand, regardless of how simple or bespoke your system is. These steps will need to be taken in order to build it. The key here is to be able to fully grasp what these steps could do, and then you could then apply the knowledge to fix any issues that you may be having on your system. Individually, these steps are very, very easy to grasp. The challenge here is how to combine them to be able to fix or troubleshoot any problem. So my main aim in this training session is to make sure that these steps are fully understood, so that when it comes to the very end, when we are doing the troubleshooting and going through examples, you will see how I combine these steps to solve problems on the system. The very first one is to draw out your hierarchy. Now, this is not mandatory. We recommend you have a drawing mainly to help with visual sort of aid in terms of making a change on the system. You can go back to the drawing and go like, oh, I'm moving this position to the other position and stuff like that. Again, it's quite useful when you are handing over to someone else to take care of the system. You can easily give them something which they can easily relate to, because this is quite straightforward in terms of a drawing. However, this step is not mandatory. So if you don't have a drawing, you can still work on the system. This is outside the system anyway. So that's our very first step. Step number 2, based on the drawing that you have for your business, we would then need to establish what we call the organization level. Now, the organization level is mainly just looking at managerial levels within your organization tree. If we take the drawing that I have on the screen as an example, and we consider the very least on this tree, for example, the telesales consultants, these consultants will need to go through their manager, sales director to get to the CEO. So there are 3 levels of management that they will need to go through. So the organization level is really just capturing these levels. So in your business, you may have 4, 5, depending. I've been looking at customers' systems for a while, and I think the most I've seen is about 7. That's kind of very, very, very big and very complicated. but our system can support up to 9 levels when it comes to organization level. So again, mainly you find about 3 or 4 as the standard. How do we do this on the system? We'll go into admin, organization and structure, and then what we call organization levels. So again, I'm going back to the system, logging in into the Moorepay system as I explained earlier, and we'll be spending most of our time here. And so once you are in the system, on the left-hand side, you will go into the admin screens. So admin, and then you have organization and structure. Here we are looking for the organization level. Now, on this screen, you get to see if your system is already built, get to see how many levels you already have. On my example, as you can see here, I have got 4 levels. And so how did we put this in place? We just go in on the top here, click on new, give it a number, and I give it a description. Now, these are just open description just to make things quite straightforward and easy in terms of relating to them. And so here you can see I've created another level, which is level number 5, and just labeled it as such. So it's very, very simple. This is the very beginning of the whole process. And so it's like the ground level kind of thing. And so it has got no other connection than what you have within your business, how your system is structured. So let's get rid of this. We don't need it. So that is, again, as an example, what the organization levels will look like. Step number 3, we need to put in place what we call the organization units. Now, this is just a fancy way of saying business units. Different companies refer to this in different ways. Some have it as departments, some have it as regions, tiers, blocks. All sort of names have been given to this, depending on how your organization sort of group units together. Here we are using very simple terminologies, just using U to represent departments within our organization. Now, what you notice here is that we have got a couple of units already on my tree. And so I've just circled them or drawn around them. Some few things to note about this. You could have multiple units, as I have here, unit 4, unit 5, unit 6, unit 7. You could have multiple units at the same level, but you cannot have a unit at multiple levels. So for example, unit 7 can only belong to unit level 3, not level 2 and 3 at the same time. So it is here, as you can see again, multiple units at the same level, but a unit cannot belong to more than one level. In the process of building, we always start from the top. The reason why we do this is so that when we make the reference or we are trying to cross-reference each of them, we would know which one belongs to what. So for example, if I were to start from unit number 2, I would need to make the reference that unit number 2 reports into 1 or feeds into 1 or belongs into 1, whichever terminology you want to use. Without one being created already in the system, I would not be able to do that. This is the reason why we always start from the very top. So we start from unit number 1, and what we say is that unit number 1 reports to no one. Then we can then go ahead to create unit number 2, which we can then say reports into 1, unit number 3, which reports into 1, and so on and so forth. And then we come all the way down on the tree. The whole idea of the organization unit is to group people or employees who have got something in common. The most In most cases, what you find common among employees is the manager that they report to. So, for example, here you can see this unit is for the customer care and customer advisors. The main reason why they are in the same unit is because I've got the manager here as well, so it makes it quite easy. When it comes to the office staff, I've got the administrators and receptionists. But when it comes to the sales guys, you notice I've separated them. The reason being that the telesales manager is different from the field sales manager. Hence, I've put them into different units so that the employees that report to them could then be able to find their manager in their units that they find themselves. So again, we try to group employees or positions which have something in common in a unit. That's the whole idea of the unit. How do we build this on the next gen platform? Again, we are going back to admin, organization, and structure, and this time organization unit. So back on the system, on the left hand side here, we have got organization units. Now, if your systems are already built, again, you notice that your units are already in here. As you can see, I've changed the terminology. Instead of using a U, I'm using a C. So you may have something written slightly different here. The idea is exactly the same. So here, for example, this is my unit number one. This is the highest one on the top. It's belong to level number one, as you can see there. If I click on edit, and just show you how that looks like. So we have got the unit ID, which we cannot change because that has already been set in. We have got a title, and you notice that it belongs to level number one. This is the reason why I was stating earlier on that a unit can only belong to one level at a time. So you don't have the option to say a unit belongs to more than one. It can just belong to one level at a time. The location, phone number, all these things are just extra information for reporting purposes. Location will not change how the hierarchy works. So all these things can be filled in if you wish to, but the key thing is where it belongs to. So unit one belongs to no one, as an example in here. If we should take another example randomly, let's go with that. This is unit number five, and it's at level number three, and it belongs to unit number two, which is at level number two. Now, if we decide to create a new one, which we can, we click on new, we give it a unit name or ID. Again, I'm just using generic stuff. You can give it the actual unit name if you wish to do so. So let's say this one is 11. And if we were to copy this across, and I will say this is at level number four, for example, location, all these things do not really, again, these things don't matter. It doesn't have to be there, all these bits. But then you decide on where it's then reports into. So if, for example, based on my tree that I had earlier, I'm putting unit 11 to report into unit 5 at level number 4. I don't have level number 4 yet, but if I decide to do so, I can do that. Or I can put it here at level number 3 and it reports into unit number 3, for example. So it's possible to be able to build something completely new in addition to, or to make some kind of adjustment or amendments to whatever already you have on the system. That is how we go about putting in what we call the organization units. Step number 4, we have what we call the positions. And again, another way of saying job roles on the system. Now, just let's do a quick catch up to see where we have got to when it comes to this whole building process. We started off with some blank drawing, which we don't need to do. This is not mandatory. It's just a recommendation. We think it's a good idea to have it. Based on that drawing, you then establish how many levels of your organization, how would that look like? In my example here, I've got 3 levels. You may have 4 or 5, depending on how big or small your company is. But we just want to put the theory in place. So we are just using a very small example of 3 levels in this example. Based on the levels, we can then establish what we call organization unit, which are essentially business units. So this is where you group employees or people together, job roles together that have got something in common. In my example here, I'm using the manager as something that is common between them and grouping them all together into that particular unit. Now, the unit is linked to a level. So the previous step, we did the levels, the unit is linked to a level. So by selecting a unit, I'm automatically saying that unit is at this level. So that is a key bit here. A unit is linked to a level, and then we always start from the top in the terms of building, and we link everything together from the top all the way down on the tree. We are now at step number 4, which is the position, which is essentially the job roles on the system. This is where we are now putting these job titles into these units, these circles that we drew earlier. So now we are now putting these job titles in the what we call positions. Now, some few things to say about positions. A job role can be occupied by one or multiple people. So for example, here, customer care advisors. It could be just one person who is the customer care advisor, or it could be 15 people sat in this job role. Another thing to note is that you could have multiple job roles reporting to another job role. What you cannot have is a job role reporting to multiple. So in this example, I've got two job roles reporting into one. What you cannot have is a job role reporting to more than one. Again, just like we did with the organization unit, we always start from the very top. The reason is quite simple. Without this being created, we cannot create this to report to that. So we start from the very top, and then we'll say the CEO reports to nobody, and then that would then be created. Then we can then go ahead to create the direct reports, and then go further down into the other indirect reports that is linked to it. How do we go about this process? Again, admin, organization structure, position definition. So back on the system, on the left hand side here, we have got position definition. Again, if your system has already been built for you, you possibly will see all the job roles which have already been created on your system. In my case, I've got 2 pages of these job roles. You may have more or less, depending on how many you have within your business. And you can easily check how those have been built and see whether it is actually done correctly. For example, if I use a CEO as an example, here, the position ID is just a unique reference number. It doesn't have to be in any particular order. In the building process, we just follow a particular sort of convention. We start from 99999 and we reduce 9998 and coming down. That is just a convention we use. These numbers do not actually represent anything in terms of how powerful that job role is or not. It's just a unique reference so that we can then make a reference point to that particular job role. That's all it is. So here we have the position ID. We have the job role. You can decide to put in a full title. And you notice that this job role is in this particular unit, unit number 1. Again, I'm using C instead of a U as we saw in previously. As you can see, I didn't really complete the location and stuff. You can do that. But the key bit is again this side, who they reports to. So as you can see, it reports to no one. If I should take another job role, let's just go with that. Here, the office manager is in unit number 5. Let me show you graphically what I'm talking about. If we go back to this. So the office manager is in unit number 5 and it's at level number 3. So let's go back to system. It's in unit number 5 at level number 3 and reports to the service director, which is having that position ID and it's at level number 2. So let's go back here. So the office manager reports to the service director, which is in unit number 2 at level number 2. So you can see everything that has already been built on the system. And if you decide to build or put in another job role, hit on new, give it an ID. This is just a unique reference. That's all it is. Give it a job title. You can give the full title, and you will have to know which unit you are putting this in. This is one of the reasons we recommend the step number 1, having the drawing, because with the drawing, you'll be able to tell very easily where that job role is going to sit on the system. So you don't necessarily have to guess. You know exactly where. And again, if you get the instruction as an admin to add a job role into the system, the first question you should be asking yourself is, what unit am I going to place this in? Because the system will be asking you that question. And so you need to know exactly the unit that this job role is going into. Again, the key bit here is what this job role is, what position is this job role going to report to. And so the list will be obviously the ones that have already been built on the system, and it's up to you to know who exactly this is going to report to. And then once that is all sorted, you select that, and then you can then click on create, and that job role is then created. These are the key bits that would really affect how the hierarchy works. The rest is kind of just defaults kind of thing that you can just put in. It doesn't really change. It's just for reporting purposes. It doesn't really change how the system actually works. So Again, where are we? We have just established these job roles in the system. So we have now created these things, but these have not been linked to anyone yet on the system. So these are job roles that will go through the whole system and build, but they are not linked to anyone at this point in time. Step number 5. With the job roles created on the system, we can now assign these job roles to the relevant employees that need to have them. Step number 5 is not saying that because your job role is the IT director, you can see everybody in the business, or because you are the receptionist, you cannot see anyone in the business. That is not what this is about. This is basically just saying who are you, and then this is your job role. So the name comes up. My name is Simon. Okay, Simon, you are the IT director. My name is Elizabeth. Elizabeth, you are the HR director. My name is this, and then you get. It doesn't mean it's just a sticker on the forehead kind of exercise. So don't think too much into this particular step. It's just giving the right job title to the right person. That's all this is about. How do we go about this? You find employee that needs that job role. So you go into the people screen, you find employee, either search for the employee on the top or just go through and find employee that needs a job role. So currently this employee is a receptionist. I'm just going to change that. Go down into employment, contract details. Down here, as you can see, receptionists are already reporting to the office manager. I want to change this to telesales. So telesales consultant, and instantly you notice the telesales consultant is reporting to the telesales manager. Now, if this, as you see on the screen, is incorrect, it basically means what has been done within the admin screen is what is incorrect. So that needs to be changed. Not here. This is just reflecting what has been done behind the scenes for the purposes of assigning the employees to the right job roles. So this is just giving you a visual of what has already been done behind the scenes. So telesales consultant report to the telesales manager. Once I'm done with this, hit on save, and instantly their employees reporting will change because now this employee is a telesales consultant and is now reporting to a different manager and has got a different team altogether compared to the previous job role that they're having. On the next tab, you notice we have got the contract history. This will instantly keep a record of the change that you have made. So in this example, the employee's old position was the receptionist, and then we changed this to the new position, which is a telesales consultant, and this change was done today. So it's quite simple to be able to do a change or assign a new job role to an employee if this is the very first time they are going to have one. So if we go back, so that is step number 5. Remember, we had 7 steps in the building process. Step number 6. We need to create what we call the security profile. Now, if you join from the very beginning, you notice the introduction was really that the hierarchy is really designed for security. It is designed to put restrictions in place, to put the necessary um, sort of stops to allow or disallow someone from doing something on the system. So this is where this comes in. This is where the security feature really comes in. So we have gone ahead to tell the system position wise how employees report to each other. Now we are going to define how they can be restricted and what they can see and how far they can see on the system. This is what we call the security profile. So the profile essentially holds information about who that person is and what that person can do on the system based on that particular profile that they are holding. Now, to explain this easier, I'll use this diagram. Now, if you could imagine this as a very tall building with individual floors of this building here, and this being the highest floor, almost like the penthouse, the highest floor of the building, and this is the ground floor of that particular building. If there happens to be a lift that would allow you to move from one floor to the next until you get to the very top, and the CEO approaches this building to get to the very top, you would expect that the CEO will have the highest clearance in terms of a swipe card or something like that that gets the lift moving. So within the lift, there's a machine that you need to swipe, as an example, to get the lift to move. The CEO, when approaches this building, gets into the lift, swipe the card, and then the lift will then start to move, get through level three, level two, and then when it gets to level number one, the lift will then stop. The CEO can then get off the lift, go into that particular office, and I'm using the unit as the office. So this is office number one. When it comes to someone like the sales director approaches the building, gets into the lift, and you will not expect the sales director to have the same kind of clearance like the CEO, because the sales director has got no business at level number one. The office of the sales director is at level number two. So we'll give the sales director level two access to the building, meaning that the sales director, when approaches the building, get into the lift, swipe the card, the lift will then go through level three. When it gets to level number two, the lift will stop because the swipe card or the access profile do not allow that particular person to get to level number one. So the lift will stop. The sales director gets off the lift and be able to go into the office number three. Now, what would we do with the service director? What do I mean? Because the service director is also at level number two. Doesn't mean we give the same sort of access to both of them. That means that this person can go into this office and this person can go into the other office. We don't really want that. So what we will do additionally is to put another level of security on the unit. So we will place another swipe card kind of machine on the actual office. So this time the sales director will need to have level two office three access to the building, and then the service director will need to have level two office two access to the building. What that would do is that it will stop the sales director from going into the office of the service director and vice versa. So that if, for example, the sales service director approaches this building, because they have been given access to level number two, the lift will be able to go up to level number two, and that's where it will stop. When the service director gets off the lift and attempts to go into office number three, the system will say access denied because you don't have access to that because the swipe card do not have that kind of access to get in here. However, when the service director swipe the card on office number two, the door will then be open for the service director to go in. Now, that is just a scenario I'm trying to create about how the security profile works. Now, in practice, how do we build this on the system? Now, you'll be wondering, why are we actually doing this? Because can't we just put the job role in and the system should just recognize how high up they are and what kind of access they have on the system? Let me explain using another job role as an example. Let's take somebody like the customer service manager as a job role to explain this. Positionally, this person is in the right place. Why? Because the employees that need to directly report to this particular job role are in the same unit. They can directly deal with their manager, so it's no big deal. If I were to give a security profile to this particular manager, it will be level three, unit four access to this particular manager, meaning that this manager can only see this group of employees when that manager logs in. Now, the question will be, what will happen if this person is not just a manager, but also happens to be an admin of the system? Meaning that as an admin, you should be able to see everything on the system whenever you need to, and still be able to get direct reports coming from those who are directly coming, i.e., reporting to you. Now, how do we solve that problem? This is where the security profile becomes very handy. Now, all we have to do is take the security profile of the CEO and give it to this particular manager. And what that would mean is that this manager can now go through the whole system, get off anywhere they wish, go into any office they want. However, when it comes to receiving something like holiday requests, this particular manager will only receive it from these two job roles. So the security profile really is a flexibility that the system has afforded the users of the system so that you can assign relevant profiles to relevant people to be able to carry out the job that they need to carry out on the system without compromising their position within the organization tree. So we have discussed two kind of relationships so far on the system. The positional relationship, i.e., job role A reports B, job role C reports A, that kind of thing, the positional relationship. And then now we are discussing the security kind of relationship, or as I like to call it, the line of access kind of relationship on the system. And so, how high are you? How much can you see? Who are going to be your direct and indirect reports, and how much can you see depending on where you are on the system? How do we build this security profile? So we have explained why we need it. So how do we build it? Just like with the organization unit, the positions, we always start from the top. Now, the highest profile we have here will be the security profile for the CEO, which is level number one, unit number one. That's the highest profile there is. If we want to create a security profile for this sales director, we need to drop it one level. And we'll be asking ourselves some questions. The first thing is, should the security profile that we are going to create for the sales director, should it have access to level number one? No, because this particular person should not have access to be able to see any information about the CEO. So no, it's not going to be the case. So we'll drop one level down. This security profile we are going to create, should it have access to level number two? Yes, because that's where this particular job role is. All right. At level number two, we have got two offices there. Should it have access to both of them or just one? In this case, just one. Therefore, the security profile will be level 2, unit 3. Let's use the office manager as the next example. Again, we'll ask ourselves the question, should this office manager have access to level number 1? No. Should this office manager have access to level number 2? No. Level number 3? Yes. Okay, that's fine. We'll give you level number 3 access to the building. But level number 3 has got 4 offices on there. Which of these should this office manager have access to? In this case, only unit number 5. So we'll then grant this office manager unit number 5, level number 3 access to the building. In creating the access, as you notice, we always start from the top and then we follow the line of sight. So for example, for this office manager, we'll start from unit 1, go down to unit 2, and come down to unit 5. The same way we go level 1, level 2, level 3, we follow the line of sight to drop it where this particular office or that user is going to be. If I was to create the security profile for the sales manager, that the field sales manager, I cannot go through 1 and 2 because 2 has got no link to number 6. So the best way to go is 1, 3, 6. So we are following the line of sight. Why is this important? Because it then determines who your direct reports are. So we are following how this tree has been built and who will be your direct reports in case we are giving access to somebody who is higher up. Now, enough talk. Let's see how this is done on the Moorepay system. On the Moorepay system, you go into security on the left-hand side. Then we have security profiles. Here, if your system is already built, you find security profiles created. Again, by convention, we label the security profile the same name as the unit to make it easy for us to be able to identify it. However, you can label it any name you want. As you can see, I've called some different names. It's just proof you can do that. Now, let's examine what has already been created. Then we can create a new one. So this is for the highest profile that I have, which I will give to the CEO as a security profile. But let's examine that. When you click on edit, you notice in this case that's got access to the company, company number one. I only have one, and then it is then dropping at level number one. Because I can see this and the rest are all blank, it means that this is where that particular user will be, and everything below that will be accessible to this particular user. And so in this example, if we go back to the drawing, the CEO has got access to see the service director, sales director, and all their indirect reports, because the CEO is at the very top and can see everybody who happens to be indirect or direct reports to that particular job role. Let's take another example. Let's go with example number 5. That's unit number 5, which belongs to the office manager. This is the security profile we have created for this particular unit. So let's examine that. Again, is having access to this company, but you notice we have dropped it from 1 to 2 to 3, and the only thing that is possible for them to see is below here. So this particular user will not see anything at level number 2 because the access has been dropped down to level number 3, and can only see unit number 5 when it comes to level number 3. There are several units on there, but can only see unit number 5 at this particular point in time. Now let's build together something for the telesales manager. Let's do this together. If we were to create a new one, let's cancel this. You hit on new. And again, by convention, we just call it the unit name just to make it easy for us to be able to identify. So let's say this is unit number 7. You can call it whatever name. It's just easier that way. We'll put a tick in there to say that it has got access to this company. If you have got multiple companies, I only have one company here, so it doesn't really matter, but it has got access to this company. Should they have access to number 1? No. At number 1, there's only one unit, and should they have access to it? Should they have access to number 2? No. But in number 2, we have got 2 units. Which unit should I be following for direct access? I.e., remember, this would influence um, direct and indirect report. Now, if you go back, you notice I've got 2 and then 3. If I go down 2, I will not be able to link these 2 together. So 2 has got no link to 7. However, 3 has got link to 7. So the correct pathway here at level number 2 will be 3. Then I go down here and then I put this as 7. So if I create this, hit on create, this will be a security profile that I can now assign to this particular manager, meaning that that particular manager will get access to level number 3, but not everything here, but just this unit here. Now, this is the reason why majority of the time you find a manager saying, I cannot see the employees on the system. They may be getting the request coming to them, but the visibility of the employees are not possible because, for example, I have given the telesales manager unit 4 security profile. So when the telesales manager logs in, they will still be at level 3, but will not be able to see the telesales consultant because the consultants are not in unit number 4. Hence, they will not see those group of employees. So the key here is that you match the manager of the unit to the security profile that you are giving them so that when they log in, they get to see that unit and any direct or indirect reports that feed into that particular unit. Now, how do we use this security profile on the system and how do we assign these security profiles to the relevant people? Back onto the Moorepay system. Now, this is what you would do for an employee if you are giving access to an employee on the system. You would go into security, users, click on add new user. In this case, if we're adding an employee on, you just leave it as employee, put in the employee number or employee name. The email address of the employee will automatically populate in here. We want this enabled. And in this example, we are creating this for an employee. So we leave it as an employee profile. The access profile, in again, in this example, is an employee access. We click on save. The employee receives an email and to be able to log in, and then everything done. That's it. You notice we do not have any other fields to complete here because we are creating an employee profile. Now, as soon as I change this from employee to anything else on this list, for example, manager, the system goes like, whoa, 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 hold on. And so this is going to be a manager, meaning that this person needs to see other employees or other users on the system because he needs to have that managerial role on the system. At that point, the system would then go like, you need to tell me what their security profile is. I need to know how high up they are, who they should be seeing, who should be their direct report, who should be their indirect report. So over here, if I was to do this for, let's say, someone like the office manager, which on this system would be having the security profile of U0005 as an example, I will just leave this as it is and then change their profile from um, employee to manager, change this to again manager. And then the security profile, I'll just give this as 5. Now, this has been created behind the scenes to only show this unit to the office manager. So now that I'm creating the access for the office manager, I put it as 5 and then I can hit on save. When the employee fills in the password and stuff, when they log in, they'll get to see, in this example, the administrators and receptionists on the system. So that is where the security profile becomes important. Notice that if I'm just doing for an employee, security profile does not matter. Why? Because an employee do not have any direct or indirect report. They only get to see themselves. So there's no trouble in terms of they getting to see something they shouldn't see and so on and so forth. It's not the issue there. However, anybody else like an admin or something, the system wants to know what the security profile is and how high up they should be having on the system. So, having settled this bit of things, let's go back to our documentation. So, that is the step number 6, creating a security profile. Step number 7 is now give that security profile to the relevant people. And so, as you can see here, I've gone through the process of showing why it is not important for an employee to have one, but it will become important for anyone else who has got a higher profile than an employee on the system. Anybody who needs to have this power to be able to see others and do stuff on the system, that would instantly become important for that particular person to have access on the system straight away. So let's recap what we have done, and then we go through some examples very quickly. Then we go to any Q&As. If you have put any questions in there, I will then get a chance to read, and then we try to answer them. So we started off by what we call the 7-step process. Draw it out based on your drawing for your company. We can then establish what levels there will be. Remember, levels are managerial lines on your tree. We then build units. These are sort of like business units, build the circles, put the offices in readiness for the job roles that are coming in. We create the job roles and then we put these job roles into the relevant units. Once the job roles are in there, we can now assign the job roles to the relevant employees. With those assigned, we need to make sure that all the security units or all the organization units have got a security profile. That's a way of putting some restriction on it so that you don't have people just jumping into that unit without having the correct access to it. And then based on those who should have the security profile, you then assign those security profiles to those ones. Now, these are the 7 main steps we take in getting the organization structure in place. These are the same 7 steps that you can use to fix or add or amend anything on the system if you need to do so. So let's jump into the troubleshooting aspect of this. So we have gone through the creating process. So we are now going to go into the troubleshooting aspect. Now, I'm going to go quiet for some few seconds to give you a chance to read scenario number 1, which is showing how a change can be made, and then we will just talk through that very quickly. So I'll go quiet for some few seconds to give you a chance to read. All right, so we have Sarah working together with Rob and Joe. Now, they are all working in the same position as a receptionist. So on this tree, they are here on this job role. Sarah happens to get a promotion and Sarah needs to move away from that job role to something else. How do we make this change on the system? If I were to solve this problem, I'll ask myself two main questions. One, that job role that Sarah has been asked to move on to, in this case, customer service advisors, is that job role already on my system? In this example, yes, that job role is already here. Okay, in that case, is that job role reporting to the correct manager I want that job role to report to? Again, in this example, it is. How do we make the change? You find the employee. So if we go back into the Moorepay system, so you go in and you find employee. Let's leave. So you could either search for the employee on the top of the screen here. Let me use this person, Marina, as an example. You go into employment, contract details, scroll down. So imagine this is saying receptionist. You just change it from that to customer, in this case, customer service advisor. And instantly you notice the person is reporting there, hit on save, and the job is done. If we go back to the question, what that would do is that it will automatically move the employee from unit number 5 into unit number 4, because remember the position is linked to the unit. So you don't need to worry. Once you move the employee to that position, the unit would also be moved because that unit, that position is already in that unit. So all you have to do is just move the employee, in this case, Sarah, to that position, and then that's it, all done. What you should not do is go into admin and make changes to the receptionist job role. If you change this, it would affect Rob and Joe because they're also having that job position as well. So you should not be doing that. Another example, scenario number 2. Again, I'll go quiet to give you a chance to have a quick read through before we finish this up. I'm going quiet now. Okay, so hopefully you have read that through. So Sarah has become the team leader for Rob and Joe. Remember, Rob and Joe are receptionists on the system, meaning that Sarah is now going to be receiving requests from Rob and Joe, and that request should no longer be going directly to the office manager. How do we fix this on the system? This is how the system was looking like before any change was actually made to it. So this is how it was looking like. So Sarah was previously here. Sarah got moved there, and now Sarah is going to become the manager for this group of people. The first thing that needs to be done is that because Sarah is now going to manage a team, you would expect that that team would have their own unit. One, because it's easier for you to be able to administer a whole unit as a team rather than it being within another team. So you do not want to have two managers in the same unit. Ideally, the best thing to do is to have a manager within a unit, making it easy for the manager to manage that particular unit. Meaning that for this new group that Sarah is supposed to have, we need to have a unit for that. Now, the additional thing information that we have received is that Sarah's new job role, which is a team leader job role, is to be reporting to the office manager. So now Sarah should be reporting to the office manager as well. So it is not like she's going to be a standalone. She should be reporting to the office manager. So we will create a new unit which reports into the office manager's unit so that we can then put Sarah to, in position wise, also report to the office manager. So if you are comparing this, this is what we are going to do. We are going to create a new unit, which will report into unit number 5, because that is where the office manager is. And then once that unit has been created, we can then put the job role of the team leader receptionist in that new unit that we are going to create. Then that new job role can now report to the office manager. Some few things to take into consideration. You only report to somebody who is above you, not someone who is at the same level as you or somebody who is below you. That same theory works here. So we need to create the unit to be at least one level below the office manager's unit. You notice I didn't put any levels here because this could be any part of your tree. It could be happening at the top, it could happen at the middle, it could happen at the very bottom. So the key here is that if the office manager's unit is level is level number 3, then this new unit you are creating needs to be at least level number 4 and below. So you need to work out based on where this change needs to happen. You create a unit which is at least one level below that of the office manager's unit in this example. Now, once that unit has been created, you can then go ahead to create this position using the steps that we have shown here. So you go into the screens, into the position definition and create this job role. Now, the reason why it's important to create the unit before the position is this. Let's quickly have a look. So on the Moorepay system, if you go into positions and you hit on new, you give it an ID, give it a job title, receptionist, team leader, you notice the system instantly asks you about the unit. Meaning that if you have not dealt with this, you'll be faced with the problem of putting that new position into this unit because you haven't created a unit yet. And so it falls back to these steps that we are talking about. So my problem, or the thing I'm trying to solve here, is to create a new position on the system. In order for this to be successful, I need to know the unit I'm going to put this position in. In the previous example I gave, I did not have to create a new position. I just needed to redefine the position. So I just went ahead to assign the position to somebody else. But in this example, I need to create a new one. And in order to create, I need to make sure that a unit is already in place to use. If the unit is already in place, I don't have any problem. But in this example, the unit is not in place because the manager needs a new unit. So I need to create that first. Once this is created, I can go ahead and create a new unit. When I create the new unit, I can then create a new position. I can then give the position to the relevant employee. So let's go ahead. So once the position has been created by going into, so you start off by the unit, create a new unit, know your levels that you are creating this in relation to the office manager. Once that is done, you can then go ahead to create your position, because the unit has already been created. So you can then assign it to the correct unit and also make it report to, in this case, the office manager. So whoever you are supposed to, as in this example, is going to report to the office manager. That's the new position I'm creating. Once that is done, you can then go back into the employee screen and you find that position you created on this list, and then you can then assign it to Sarah. Imagine this person is Sarah. You can then assign it to Sarah, and instantly that position will then be reporting to the office manager as you need to. Now, that is one half of the issue that we need to solve. The other bit is the team leader position is supposed to be for the receptionist. That is a question that we are being asked here. So the receptionist job role is what we are looking to have a new team leader for. So it's supposed to be the leader for those people. Now, previously, the receptionist report to the office manager. So we need to move the receptionist, that job role, to now report to the new position we have created. So on the Moorepay system, this is how that would be done. So you come into the definition, find the job role. So here, receptionist, edit, and you notice I've got the receptionist reporting to the office manager. You just need to change this to the new job role that has been created. Change the unit because they are now going to move away from unit number 5 to the new unit you have created, whatever label it is. So you change this from whatever unit they were previously, because they were previously on unit number 5, you change that to something else, and that's it, sorted. When it comes to giving access to Sarah, when you get into the screens under the security, you notice that Sarah is still having the access as an employee because that's what Sarah was used to. Because Sarah moved from receptionist to the customer service advisor. And so she is not a manager yet. We have created everything on the system in readiness to give Sarah the manager role. So if we use this as an example, so you can see this person is an employee. If we were to go like, okay, this is Sarah, she's no longer an employee, I want to change it. You notice that the system do not allow such a change to happen. So you would need to get rid of this, delete it, and then reapply it. Now, when you hit on delete, it doesn't delete the records of Sarah on the system. It doesn't remove anything about their HR records, their payroll records. It's just a login access. That's all that is being taken away. So you are taking away the employee access that they used to have, and then you can then come back and then recreate this as a manager. So you go through the process that we described previously, select manager, make sure you put the employee details in, and then the security profile would have to match the new security profile that you have created for that new team that you have done. So again, the security profile needs to be created in order for you to assign this to the relevant person. Now, in all fairness, this is the most complex that you could have in terms of issues with the system and how you can go about fixing it. Additionally, we have created things that can help you to be able to run reports on the system, to be able to see if, for example, you already have the system and you want to check what has been built and how you can easily correct it. Now, let's use the next 2 minutes to run through the reports that there are. There are 3 reports that you can run, and these reports will show you individually, based on that particular report, what you can do with it. But all 3 will show you uh, what has been built in total on the system. The first one is the position structure report. That one. Again, select the position that you wish to run the report from. I like this run from the top. You can decide in this case to include people in your report. When you hit on run, this would essentially show you the list of um, employees and then the job role. So here it gives me the job role, the person who is occupying that job role, and then the unit that person is in. So if you have a problem with wrong people sat in the wrong job role, this is how you can quickly determine that. So in this example, you can see I've got all these as receptionists. This is obviously wrong. So I can clearly see that this is not what's supposed to happen. So by running this report, you can tell that the wrong person is sat in the wrong job role or in the wrong unit. The other report you can run is the organization structure report. That is also down on this list. Again, I like to run from the top. You can run from anywhere you believe you have your issues. I hit on include positions. Let's say yes, run. Okay. These are pre-built reports, so you don't need to think about them. You can just run them anytime. So what does this report show you? It gives you a chance to be able to see the position, the unit that position is sat in, and the level that position is in. You notice that it doesn't tell you the person who is occupying this position. That is what the previous report is supposed to do. So if you have a problem with wrong people sat in the wrong position, that the previous one can solve that easily. Now, if you notice carefully, there's an indent here, meaning that unit 2 reports into unit 1. The same applies here. Unit 4 report into unit 2. And you can confirm that here, unit 3, level 3, level 2. However, when you look at these two, they are in parallel, meaning that these two are the same level. And again, you can confirm that here. And these two are actually reporting into unit number 2. Now, let's graphically show you visually, that is, I'm show you how what I'm saying and how you can see what I'm saying as well. So if we go back to the diagram that we used earlier, here we go. So this is what we are saying, that we have unit 4 and 5 at level number 3 reporting into unit number 2. So if we go back here, so this is unit 4 and 5 reporting into 2, and then 2 reporting into 1. So these two reporting into that, and this reporting into that. So we have a very easy way of identifying if the organization structure is actually right. So you can look at this and quickly tell if you have got things in the right places and they are reporting to the right. So you can easily correct your tree based on something like this. The very last one is the position structure. Here again, let me go with my CEO. You can start from anywhere. Let's go full screen. Notice here it gives me the position ID, gives me the unit, and then the level. And then just below that, I've got 3, meaning that 3 direct reports to this particular job role. And here I've got 2. Here I've got 2. I've got 1. I've got 1. I've got 2 there. I've got 2 there, and so on and so forth. Now notice this is not being grouped in terms of units. It's not being grouped in terms of levels. It's being grouped in terms of position, how they report to each other. So if you have a problem within your organization tree where you don't see or you don't think they are reporting to each other correctly, this would tell you how they are actually reporting to each other on the tree. And a very, very simple way. And again, as you can see, it's very visual for you to be able to determine whether this is being done correctly. Additionally, we have created what we call the organization chart. Now, this will help you with what we call the health check. If there is a problem on your organization tree, it will quickly identify it for you. As you can see here, I've got vacant employee position. And so I've got one problem with that, and we explain what this means as well. Now, if I click on the one, it will then go ahead to tell me what position is vacant. And when I click on that position, it points it out on the tree for me. So this can easily help you to be able to identify if there are any missing or there are gaps on your tree. This can easily point you to the right place. I've got a manager position which has not been filled in. I click on that. It tells me that is this field sales manager position which is empty. Click on it. It shows me exactly where it is on the tree, and so on and so forth. So you can use this to be able to do a health check as well, to be able to establish if there's something wrong with your tree, if somebody is reporting to a blank position, if somebody is reporting to a level which is lower than theirs, somebody's in incompatible organization unit. All these things the system can pick up for you. But when it comes to something like the security profile, it's something that you need to create and then administer. So it's very important those are created properly, and then it can then be able to be used to assign the correct thing. As you can see on the top here, it's quite easy to be able to refresh the screens, get things checked. If you are finding a particular position, you can just search for that particular position on the system, and it will find it for you. for whoever that particular person is, and it just finds that position for you as well. Very, very easy to navigate around. Now, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat, and then I'm happy to attend to and read them, and then of course help you with anything that you have. Of course, this is a very, very basic sort of hierarchy when it comes to most companies. Depending on how complex yours is, you may have things which have been sort of like compromises that have been put in place depending on how your tree looks like, which may need some detailed look. But in terms of how the system works, in terms of what you need to do to find a problem, in terms of how you can easily troubleshoot, the process is always the same, regardless of how complex or not complex your tree is. So this is what we want to cover for today. I'm just looking out to see if there are any questions. And if there are, I'll try and pick them up before we finish. We just have some few more minutes before we finish for today. So if you have any question, you can put them here, or otherwise you could always reach out to the customer service. If you go through the the whole video and you are still having issues after attending to your system, you can always reach out to Moorepay. With at least now you know where to go, and you can then raise specific questions based on what you see and why you think it's not working the way you want it to, and then we can then attend to that for you. So I'm just holding on, waiting to see if there is any question coming up. I cannot see any. That that means the training went down very well. I'm glad. Okay, I will not stretch this any further. Let's see. Yes, I've got a question coming through. Is this being recorded? Yes. Yes, you will get a copy of the recording. You will get a recording very soon. And so once the recording has been done, you will get an email. Possibly you may get it by the close of the week. So you should get that. I have another. Did you create a new level for the receptionist reporting to the new role? So the receptionist level depends. And so in my example, yes, I created a new level. The reason why I did that was because no, in my example, I just created a new unit, but we didn't talk about levels because you may already have the level in place. Let me go back to the diagram very quickly, and then I explain using that. So if your system looks like this, with 3 levels, for example, and I happen to create a new unit that needs to report to, let's say, the telesales manager, or even let's use that same example that we had there, the office manager, and I had to create a new unit down here. Notice I don't already have level number 4, so I will have to create level number 4. However, if the problem was somewhere in the middle here, and I had to create a new unit to report to the, say, somebody like the service director, I already have level number 3, so I don't need to create another level. I can just create that new unit here, which would then be at level number 3, which would then report to the service director. So depending on where the issue happens, where you need to create, you may need to create a new level depending on how your tree looks like, or you don't have to create. If the level is already in existence, you can use it, because at the end of the day, remember that security profile is able to put restrictions in place based on the actual unit. So you may have people sat on the same level who shouldn't really be sat at the same level, but they would not be able to see another person's team, because the security profile would ensure such a thing do not happen, depending on how you create it. So you don't have to go away creating so many levels because you are feeling like, oh, this person is a higher person than the other. You don't need to worry too much about that. So long as the tree looks logical in terms of reporting, then the levels can be reused, so long as you don't complicate things on the system. And so in my example, yes, I will have to create another level because I don't already have level 4, and it's supposed to be another unit below this one. So I have to create another level just to be able to do that. In this example, yes. All right. Waiting for any other questions that will come through. We literally have some seconds. Okay. Fantastic. I've noticed that many of you stayed. That means I wasn't boring. That's good. The session was useful to you. I'm glad it was. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll see you again later. Bye bye for now.